Chapter 11. Practice Test 2. Number 1. Listen to a teacher talking in a French class.
All right, everyone. We're going to start reading The Little Prince next week. I will not translate every word you don't understand, so please bring a French-English dictionary to class if you haven't already. You can purchase them for less than $10 at Borders bookstore, or I think our library has a couple of copies. Getting the dictionary is your assignment for this weekend, so please do not forget.
What is the teacher mainly talking about? Number 2. Listen to a school secretary making an announcement.
Due to the recent swine flu outbreak, classes will be canceled for the rest of the week. Students should stay home and remain indoors during this time. If you do go outside, remember to wear a mask and wash your hands as soon as you get home. If you feel sick or feverish, tell an adult immediately. Makeup classes have been scheduled for the summer. If your parents have questions, please have them call the main office.
What is the purpose of the announcement? Number 3. Listen to a teacher talking in a history class.
Before our guest speaker gets here, I want to tell you a little about Mr. Rosen. He lost his hearing in the right ear during the war, so speak up when you ask him questions. Also, since he's from Germany, he has a bit of an accent. If you don't understand him, politely ask him to repeat what he said. I want everyone to pay close attention. If I catch anyone misbehaving, you'll be in for detention. Understood?
Why is the teacher talking about Mr. Rosen? Number 4. Listen to a teacher talking in an art class.
I would like to introduce 3 very special guests. First, this is Jeff Mackenzie, and the 2 hawks Jeff has brought with him are Maria and Maxwell. They will be your models today. Now, Jeff says the hawks are used to modeling, and they will usually stay quite still for about 30 minutes. However, if they do begin to get restless, we may have to give them a short break. So please begin drawing now.
What is probably true about the hawks? Questions 5 through 8. Listen to a conversation between a boy and his sister.
Hey, Derek, are you all packed up and ready to go? Mom said that as soon as Dad gets home from work, we're going to head out to the airport.
I just finished packing, but I can't find my passport anywhere. Have you seen it? I thought I left it on the coffee table last night, but it's not there.
You lost your passport again? Well, you'd better find it before Mom finds out. She's going to be really upset, and she's already stressed out because Dad's running a little late, and we have to be at the airport in 45 minutes.
I didn't lose it, I just misplaced it. Can you help me look for it, please?
I can't. I don't have time. I have to help Mom load everything in the car. I only came up here to ask you to bring your suitcase downstairs.
What am I going to do? I've looked everywhere. The kitchen, the living room, my room. I even checked the bathrooms.
Well, look again. Did you check under the furniture in the living room? Your passport might have fallen off the table.
I'll go look right now. Do me a favor and don't tell Mom. There's no point in getting her all upset, and I'm sure it's around here somewhere.
Fine, but you'd better hurry up because Dad will be home soon.
Now answer the questions. Number 5. What is the boy's problem? Number 6. According to the girl, Why is their mother stressed out? Number 7. Why did the girl come to the boy's room? Number 8. What will the boy probably do next? Questions 9 through 12. Listen to a conversation between two friends.
Hey, Colin, guess what? I took your advice and finally went to one of your games with Melissa and Alice last weekend. It was their first time watching an ultimate frisbee competition, too. And I have to say, we were all pretty impressed. You guys played really well. Congratulations on your big win.
Thanks, Jenna. I'm glad you had a good time.
Is something wrong? You don't seem very excited.
This win was important because our team qualified to play in the national championships next month. But the championships are in Boston, and the school board decided that they can't fund our trip because of funding cuts and stuff like that.
What? But that's totally unfair. You guys are the best sports team our school has. They should do everything to support you guys. In fact, you know what the school should do? They should take money from the football program and give it to you guys instead. Why does a losing football team need a new field? They've never even been to the playoffs.
The school says we're an after-school club and not a real team, so they don't have to pay for any of our expenses. A couple of us talked to the principal this morning, but she said there was nothing more she could do.
Maybe you could raise the money yourselves.
With airfare, hotel, and food, we need about $10,000. We definitely can't come up with that much money on our own.
Now answer the questions. Number 9. What is the subject of the conversation? Number 10. According to the boy, why was their win last week important? Number 11. What can be inferred about the football team? Number 12. Why does the boy mention $10,000? Questions 13 through 16. Listen to a teacher talking in a social studies class.
In the modern world, it is commonplace for people from different countries and cultures to live and work side by side. It is already possible to find a church, a mosque, and a synagogue all in the same neighborhood. Most people call this progress. However, some people think multicultural societies result in heightened racism and intolerance. These people claim that Muslims, Christians, and Jews should live separately. They say multicultural societies will result in more wars and terrorism. Looking into the past, however, we find that this is not true. In fact, it is easy to find historical examples that show the opposite. One such example is the great medieval civilization of Al-Andalus in southern Spain. While the rest of Europe was in decline, Al-Andalus was a place of tolerance, peace, and high culture. Although Al-Andalus was in Europe, it was actually a Muslim country. Muslims from Africa, or Moors, invaded Spain in the 8th century. The Moors defeated the Christian kings of Spain and took over the country. But they did not force the people living there to change their languages or religion. So the Christians, Jews, and Muslims lived and worked together in peace and harmony for centuries. Together, these three cultures created a multicultural society of great wealth, learning, and art. Their universities and libraries were among the best in the world, and they produced greatly influential thinkers. Al-Andalus was clearly a prosperous nation, and this was very different than the rest of Europe. For example, in the Middle Ages, the population of the Christian city of Rome decreased from 1 million people to less than 20,000. The city of Cordoba in Al-Andalus, on the other hand, grew to around 500,000 Christians, Muslims, and Jews.
Now answer the questions. Number 13. Why is the teacher talking about Al-Andalus? Number 14. What does the teacher mean when he says,
In fact, it is easy to find historical examples that show the opposite.
Number 15. Why did Al-Andalus become a multicultural society after the Moors' arrival? Number 16. Why does the teacher mention Rome? Questions 17 through 20. Listen to a teacher talking in an art class.
At first, Europeans thought World War I would be a quick and simple war. But the years rolled on with no end in sight, and many Europeans began losing faith in their countries and their beliefs. Among them were artists who had escaped their countries to avoid the war. These artists blamed their countries for the war. They thought Europeans were dying for no reason. So, in response, these artists decided to create a new art that went against the traditional beliefs of European countries. They thought that if their new art succeeded, then people might see how meaningless the war was, and it would finally come to an end. At first, they didn't know what to call the new art. The artists wanted a name that sounded silly, which was what they thought of the war, and those who believed in it. They also wanted it to have a silly meaning. They found the perfect name in the French word dada, which means whimsy. Something that is irrelevant or meaningless. Just as they'd planned, the art of these artists, or Dadaists, broke all the rules and went against traditional beliefs. The artist Marcel Duchamp was an important Dada artist. He took a reproduction of the Mona Lisa and painted a beard and mustache on it. He also took a bathroom urinal, called it a fountain, and put it in an art exhibition as a sculpture. This shocked and disgusted the public, just like it was supposed to. Let's talk about some other important Dadaists. I think that will give you a clearer picture of what the Dadaist movement was all about.
Now answer the questions. Number 17. What is the talk mainly about? Number 18. Why did these artists choose the name Dada for their art? Number 19. Why does the teacher mention Marcel Duchamp? Number 20. What will the teacher probably talk about next? Questions 21 through 24. Listen to a discussion in a history class.
We've been talking about the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. I want to talk about a symbol that was very important in Europe during those times, the unicorn. Among other things, the unicorn was a symbol of strength, purity, and grace. But actually, it was more than just a symbol. You see, Europeans believed that the unicorn was a real animal that could be found somewhere in the unexplored world. In fact, people believed this right up until the 19th century. Of course, today, we know that there is no such animal outside of mythology.
I don't get it. How could they believe that unicorns were real? I mean, they couldn't have ever seen one.
Well, there were a few reasons. It probably started with a Greek historian named Ctesias around 400 BCE. He wrote a book about the wonders of the Far East. In that book, he writes about a wild ass in India with a white horse-like body and a horn on its forehead.
Did he actually say he saw a unicorn?
No, he didn't. He'd heard reports from travelers who had been to India. But what these travelers had probably seen was the Indian rhinoceros, not a unicorn.
So why did people in the Middle Ages believe a report in an ancient Greek book?
Good question. And that brings us to our next reason. Some early versions of the Bible mention unicorns in the Old Testament. Of course, no good Christian questioned the Bible, and in those times, people tended to interpret the Bible quite literally. You see, the problem was the Hebrew word for wild ox was incorrectly translated as unicorn. So naturally, people believed that such an animal really existed.
Now answer the questions. Number 21. What is the discussion mainly about? Number 22. Why does the teacher mention the Indian rhinoceros? Number 23. Why does the Bible mention unicorns? Number 24. When did people stop believing that unicorns were real animals? Chapter 11. Practice Test 2. Number 1. Listen to a teacher talking to a class.
We are going to start a Save the Earth campaign. Hopefully, it will catch on and other schools will do it too. So, first, we need to design a poster. We'll need ideas for a title and a logo design. So, I want you to get into groups of 4 and get started with some brainstorming. Hand in your ideas to me at the end of class.
Why is the teacher talking about designing a poster? Number 2. Listen to a principal making an announcement in school.
Attention, please. I have wonderful news. As you know, our school is a very old building, so it has a lot of history. Because of this, our school will be featured in a new book on local architecture. That's right, our school. Now, a photographer will be coming today to take a few photos for the book. So please be helpful and polite if you see him.
What is the purpose of the announcement? Number 3. Listen to a principal making an announcement in school.
Attention, students. I have something important to tell you. A student recently bought a hot dog from the street vendor that sometimes parks outside the school. That student got food poisoning, and it's quite serious. We have contacted the city about this, but for now, please do not buy hot dogs from the vendor. And if you do see his hot dog van, please let us know.
What is the subject of the announcement? Number 4. Listen to a principal making an announcement in school.
Attention, please. The traffic light on the street in front of our school is broken. Workers are there now trying to fix it, but it will probably take a while. In the meantime, a crossing guard has been placed there at the crosswalks. I know a lot of you walk home, so please be especially careful today. Everything should be back to normal by tomorrow morning.
What can be inferred about the street? Questions 5 through 8. Listen to a conversation between two friends.
Wow, Dylan! This is the first time I've seen you without your glasses. You look really good. What happened to your glasses?
They broke in PE class. We were playing soccer and I got hit in the face with the ball. I know it was an accident, but I'm kind of frustrated because I'm blind without my glasses. I mean, I won't be bumping into people, but I'm having a really hard time seeing the board right now.
Oh, really? Well, I'll let you borrow my notes after class. Don't worry about that. But if you can't see, how are you going to get through the rest of the day?
I don't know. I have an extra pair at home, but both of my parents are at work. Even if I called them, they wouldn't be able to drop them off. I guess I'll just have to pay close attention in all my classes.
Why don't you ask Mr. Goodman if you can move to the front of the class? I'm sure he'll let you switch seats with someone. You might be able to see the board better.
Yeah, thanks. That will help.
Now answer the questions. Number 5. What is the boy's problem? Number 6. What happened to the boy's glasses? Number 7. Why can't the boy's parents drop off his glasses? Number 8. What will the boy probably do next? Questions 9 through 12. Listen to a conversation between two friends.
I'm really excited to get started on the research for this family history report. Who are you going to write your report about?
I'm not sure. Most of my aunts and uncles live in Europe, and I only see them once every few years. So I guess I won't write my report about any of them. My closest relative is my grandfather. He lives in Stockton, so I guess I'll go talk to him this weekend. What about you? Who are you going to write about?
My great-grandmother. I can't wait to learn more about her life. She's over 100 years old, but she remembers things so well. I'm going to ask my mom if we can see her this weekend, too. She lives a couple of hours away, but we try to visit once a month.
That's cool that your great-grandmother is still alive and that she remembers things so well. My grandfather's memory isn't very good anymore, and sometimes he doesn't like to talk much. But once you get him talking, he'll go on and on.
So, how do you get him talking?
I just show him some old family photographs. That usually works.
Now answer the questions. Number 9. What are the speakers mainly discussing? Number 10. Why is the boy not going to write his report about his aunts or uncles? Number 11. What does the boy suggest about his report? Number 12. How does the boy get his grandfather talking? Questions 13 through 16. Listen to a teacher talking in a social studies class.
Counterfeiting is the making of fake money. Of course, it hurts individuals and businesses. But more importantly, it hurts the country as a whole by harming the economy. Counterfeiting harms a country's economy by causing inflation, which makes things cost more. It also causes people to distrust money, so they stop using that country's money. As a result, the country's economy suffers greatly. That's why governments always punish counterfeiters harshly. Some counterfeiters have even been put to death. Unfortunately, some of the worst counterfeiters are governments themselves. But governments do not use counterfeiting to get rich like criminals do. Instead, they use it to hurt the economies of enemy countries. One famous example of this happened during World War II. The German Nazis counterfeited British money. They were making about 1 million fake British pounds every month. In the end, they made over 143 billion fake British pounds. And the counterfeit money was so good, it was hard to tell that it was not real money. Fortunately for Britain, the Nazis never used the pound notes, so the British economy was not harmed by the counterfeiting. Governments still use counterfeiting as a weapon today. The U.S. claims that North Korea is producing a superdollar in order to harm the U.S. economy. It is called a superdollar because it is very difficult to tell that it is not a real dollar. But there is still no proof that the superdollar comes from North Korea.
Now answer the questions. Number 13. Why is the teacher talking about counterfeiting? Number 14. What does the teacher imply when he says,
Some counterfeiters have even been put to death?
Number 15. Why does the teacher talk about the German Nazis? Number 16. Why does North Korea produce a superdollar? Questions 17 through 20. Listen to a teacher talking in a biology class.
According to Charles Darwin, we are closely related to apes and monkeys, and that they are our primate cousins. One of our most interesting primate cousins is the lemur. Today, the lemur lives only on the island of Madagascar, along the west coast of Africa. However, until about 55 million years ago, the lemur lived on the African continent, along with many other species of animals. Scientists believe that around that time, some of them floated over to the island of Madagascar on trees. And we are lucky they did, because the lemurs that stayed in Africa were all killed off not long after. Arriving safely on Madagascar, the lemur lived and evolved into many different species. In fact, there are around 100 different species of lemur today. That's more than any other primate group. And these species can be very different from each other. They can be as small as a mouse or as large as a gorilla. Lemurs still have some things in common, though. All lemurs have huge glowing eyes and ghost-like cries. Interestingly, the word lemur is a Latin word that means ghost. So, as you can tell, lemurs have a very interesting past. But how are they doing today? Well, unfortunately, they are quickly losing their home to farmers, and some of them are dying. In fact, 17 species are already extinct. So, what's being done to protect these truly wonderful primates? Well, let's talk about that.
Now answer the questions. Number 17. What is the talk mainly about? Number 18. How do scientists believe lemurs moved from Africa to Madagascar? Number 19. Why does the teacher mention a mouse and a gorilla? Number 20. What will the teacher probably discuss next? Questions 21 through 24. Listen to a teacher talking in a world history class.
We all know that gunpowder is what makes guns work. But gunpowder was invented at least 500 years before guns. So, what did people use gunpowder for during that time? Does anybody know?
I saw a documentary on TV about this. They said gunpowder was used at first as a medicine.
That's right. The Chinese had known about powders that burned and exploded since ancient times. But surprisingly, they used these powders as medicine to treat diseases. In fact, Chinese doctors in the 1st century BCE first discovered these powders because the Chinese emperor told them to find a medicine to stop death. Again, in 8th century CE, doctors were looking for a medicine that would allow the Chinese emperor to live forever. They mixed the old explosive powders together, but they also added charcoal, and that made the difference. The emperor's doctors called it fire medicine. They thought it was the medicine that would stop death. But what do you think happened to the Chinese emperor?
I'm sure he died because the medicine didn't work.
Right. The emperor eventually died, and so did his doctors. That's because the fire medicine wasn't a medicine at all. It was gunpowder. After the death of the emperor, gunpowder continued to be used in new ways. People used it to get rid of insects in their homes. They also invented fireworks and exploding weapons with it. It was after gunpowder left China that people invented guns.
Now answer the questions. Number 21. What is the talk mainly about? Number 22. What did Chinese doctors use the exploding powders for in ancient times? Number 23. What did doctors in the 8th century do differently than earlier doctors? Number 24. Why does the teacher mention fireworks?